Hey folks, it's Lucy with Ballyhoo Creations, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use this little gadget to get perfect tensions on your embroidery machine. This is my second video on embroidery machine tensions, and in the first one right here, in that video I talked about how to do tension test stitch outs, especially for in the hoop projects that have a little bit of special funky stuff going on, but it works for any project or any machine if you want to check out that video. In this one I'm going to talk about this little gadget here. This is a thread tension gauge tester by Tajima that costs less than $30, and it tests both the upper and bobbin thread tensions for your embroidery machine. You may have seen before a bobbin tension tester called the TOA, this one here, and those cost $50 and only test bobbin tensions, whereas this one here can do top and bobbin and it's half the price, so it's no brainer in my opinion. For a single needle machine, leave the thread running through the needle and under the presser foot. Turn the machine on just in case the tension discs are not engaged when the machine is turned off, and then lower your presser foot. If the foot is up, your tension discs are not engaged, so make sure that that foot is lowered or this won't work. Hook the thread and pull horizontally to the right with the scale numbers visible. Pull at a slow, steady speed about 1 inch per second or 2 to 3 centimeters per second. I'll show more on that in a minute. And then get your reading. On a multi-needle, it's very similar. Hook the thread and pull horizontally to the right with the scale numbers visible. It's hard to read while it's moving, so put your finger where that red line is on the gauge and read it after you're done moving it. I'll talk about what those numbers mean in just a minute, but you want to make sure that the spring doesn't bounce around. If it does, something's interfering with your thread, and you'll want to check your thread path or clean things out of your machine. Could be a thread net or something is catching your thread. To check the bobbin tensions, you'll want to remove your bobbin case from your machine. For a rotary hook or a multi-needle, it's easy, just pull it out there. But it's a bit more involved for a drop-in bobbin on a single needle or a flatbed machine. You'll need to remove a few parts to get to your bobbin case. It might be easier to use some tweezers to get the case out, but that's the piece you want, is the case that the bobbin sits in. Don't be afraid to remove your bobbin case. You need to know how to do this anyway so you can clean it out and make sure your machine's running good. Get all the lint and threads out. So to test the bobbin, you want to lay it flat on a table and you want to hold on to it so it doesn't move, but make sure the thread is still able to come out, and you want to make sure the thread is still going through this little tension area here. And you would hook it on, and as far as the speed goes, they say to wrap it around, but I have not needed to do that. Mine hold it really tight. You want to do it about 1 inch per second, so count Mississippi. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5. That's about the speed that you want. And I'll show you, and start down here again. You want to be able to see the gauge, so you want to count slowly. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, like that. About 1 inch per second. 1, 2, 3. That's the right speed that you want. Almost as slow as you can get it, and you'll notice that it won't be bouncing around. You want to do it at a constant speed. And you can see that my bobbin is at about 20 grams, which is what I want it to be at on this. Right there is where it was. Now on my other one, this is the one from the flatbed, you want to again make sure that your thread is going through this little spring area like it would when it's in the machine. And this one's a little bit trickier, but I'm going to hold the case, get it in there, and then when I pull, 1, 2, 3, I'm only getting about 10 grams out of this, which this machine has been giving me problems, so I know this bobbin is actually too loose, and I'm going to tighten that up. So what numbers are you looking for on this little guy? Well, according to the instructions, what you want is polyester thread should be about 120 to 150 grams. For rayon, it's a little bit less. You need a looser tension for rayon thread, and they suggest 100 to 120 grams. I'll put all these numbers down in the description, make it easier for you to look it up later. And for the bobbin, they say between 18 to 22 grams, but as many as 25 grams of tension for if you're doing caps. So you want it a little bit tighter for that. I suspect that those numbers apply to Tajima machines since this is a Tajima branded gadget. I have done it on my Baby Lock, so a Brother Baby Lock multi-needle. Those tension numbers work great. As a matter of fact, my tensions were too low. I raised them up because of this device, and when I did, not only did the machine stitch better, but my wiper errors went away as well. So once you get the top tension correct, the thread cutter works better. It's a nice little bonus that fall out of that. These tensions are also working on my single needle machine, so go ahead and give it a try. Some brands, though, may need a different tension. I'm thinking of the ZSK multi-needles. Definitely say that they have an 80-gram tension. They run at a lower tension, so you might want to search the internet and see if your machine, if you can find tension numbers, but it's not something that's easy to find, so you could go with the recommendations for this gauge and then play it from, go from there. So where can you find one of these? They're not easy to find. I couldn't even find them on Amazon, which is crazy, right? Everything's on Amazon. I found 3 places in the United States. There's Tex-Mac Direct, which sells embroidery supplies. Also All Brands and All Stitch. I'll link all of those down below in the description box. I've ordered from all 3 of them in the past, and all 3 have good customer service, so I would recommend any of those. If you're in a different country, I would suggest searching for Tajima thread tension gauge and see if you can find somewhere that you like to shop that may have something like this. All of those places had these for between $20 to $25, although I noticed the shipping could be anywhere from $8 to $20, so it's probably best if you're going to order something small like this, go ahead and order your threads and stabilizers and other things that you would normally order for embroidery supplies so that you don't pay too much for shipping. If you want to find one cheaper, because I'm so frugal, I'm always looking for the best price. Echidna used to have something like this, but I haven't seen it for sale online anymore. So the Tajima is the only one I'm seeing. But if you're really ambitious, you can go online and search for something called a dynamometer. I can't say it. It's a dynamometer is what it is. Dynamometer, which is actually for measuring torque, but a simple one does this. You could also search for a spring scale. The difference is the dynamometer tests, measures in newtons, which is a measure of force, whereas the spring scales, which is what this is, will measure in grams or pounds or something like that. Just make sure that you get something that measures between about 0 and 250 grams, because that's the scale that you need. You don't want to have something that measures in pounds because you're not going to get a thread reading on that. So that's all I had to say about this nifty little thread tension gadget. If you want to pick one up and see if you like it as much as I do. I've reset all of my machines using this and gotten really good results from it. Other than that one designer one, it kills me. It's a pain. You won't have to do as many test stitch outs if you're using something like this, but you'll still want to do some test stitch outs with like an eye test, a fox test, or go to that other video that I mentioned. There's a free file it's this funky looking face that tests running stitches as well as satin stitches. I will link to that again. If you're still confused about how to do test stitch outs, then check out this other video. This other video that I did on embroidery machine tension testing. That's the part 1. This is part 2 using the little meter. And while you're getting that free file over at ballyhoocreations.com, check out my designs where I have quirky characters for the inspired sewist, like this little guy. Bye-bye. That's all I got. See ya.